we'll stay in the best hotels, but we'll never take the suit. If there is some way I can generate income without working per se. In 2002, for a second year engineering college student, if you tell him that you'll get $10 a month, that's a brilliant idea. Instead of finding out about it from an article that I read in a newspaper, you guys are telling me well in advance that these issues, these challenges are there. I have investments where there are 20% returns as well. So the only way you can do this is money makes money.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Inquisitive Investor, a podcast by the investor for the investor. Today we have an incredibly firebrand personality, Ravi Handa. We're going to understand the concept of FIRE and learn from Ravi's journey of how to become financially independent and retire early. Ravi, welcome to the podcast. You are not unfamiliar with Grip at all. The social media is not unfamiliar with your presence and the work that you do. You've been on the newspaper now, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But thank you for taking time, making the trip to our Gurgaon office and speaking to us.
2020, that is just when COVID hit. So that is the point of time when we started thinking about, okay, what do we want to do, for the next few years of our life. That is when we decided that, okay, let's start doing the numbers. Is it possible that, can we quit work? So can we quit? So my wife has to quit work for at least a couple of years. Can I also quit? And then we did the numbers, and then we realized that, okay, perhaps we can quit for a long enough period. And we did the numbers and we realized that, okay, fine, we don't really. So if we keep our aspirations limited, say for example, if we take a call that, okay, fine, we are never going to travel business class. We'll stay in the best hotels, but we'll never take the suit.
Sure.
So if we just, and that's the sort of lifestyle that we have been living till now. So I've never traveled in a business class ever, because I was always running my own business. Maybe if I was in a job, in a corporate job, probably I would be in a position where I would have traveled business class. Yeah. But because I was running my own business, the money was going out of my own pocket. I never did that.
Yeah. So once once you're stuck to it and tasted it, becomes difficult to let go.
Correct. So so we looked at the things, fine, what are the things that we can compromise on? What are the things we can do? And we realized that, okay, we don't really need to work for money anymore. So all of that, the entire thought process started because it came into the picture.
And this is personally very fascinating because, we're almost always taught to run on this treadmill, right? And to always say, hey, can I solve for more money as being equal to solving for a better quality of life, right? But actually, I think we all forget that better quality of life is made by things like having time for people you love, people you care, taking care of your health, playing to your interests. And I think that that's a function of money, but there's a amount of money that's required to solve for that, right? It's not an infinite amount of money.
Could be. I think a lot of it also comes from the fundamental idea of what do you want? And once you actually realize and you sit down and you start doing calculations in a certain way. Say, for example, for a very, very long period of time, I thought that I should have a good car. Now, what is the definition of a good car? It's very ambiguous. So I always thought that, okay, Fortuner is the car that I would want. Then when I started looking at the numbers and I realized that buying the Fortuner and everything, along with the extra costs that come in with a 40-45 lakh car, I would probably need to work 2 more years. So the trade-off essentially there happens that, are you willing to work 2 extra years for that car, which will probably last 10 years?
Yeah.
And once you start seeing things that way, I believe, it becomes a judgment call. Now, there will be people who would want to work 2 more years for Fortuner. I decided not to.
We're often told that the decisions we take throughout our life and our value systems are the basic fundamental tenets of our personality actually pretty much get decided by the time we're 5 or 7, right? Because those formative years really shape who we are, the experiences we are living in, how we're grown up, safety, security, whatever it may be. If you were to dial back what decision you took today, and very comfortable and happy taking today with this principle of FIRE, from a family setup, etc., was it conducive to take the decision? Do you think that was like, or it was like, hey, this was completely different? But
see, so that way, I believe I went on a non-conventional route as per my family quite some time ago.
Why do you say that family was in business?
Yeah, because my family was never in business. So both my parents were government servant. Even if I look at all my father's family or all my mother's family, nearly all my cousins, so I'll have close to 20 odd cousins if I combine both the paternal and the maternal side. And there is only one other person who does business, so to say. So you'll have engineers, you'll have doctors, you have lawyers, and so CAs, the entire professors, the entire spectrum gets covered. Say, for example, in my family, there are more CAs than businessmen, there are more doctors than businessmen, there are more engineers than businessmen. There, as I'm saying, there is just one business family which is there. So the fact that I started my own business itself in 2011-12 is when I did that. That is when it sort of went away from the traditional route, so to say.
Okay, understood.
And post that, because the business did well, that's a big factor. If the business had failed, maybe, it would be very, very difficult to take a big, substantial career decision this way. Understood. But that worked out, so...
A lot of this is also very closely linked with finance, right?
True.
And it's closely linked with being able to make investments in a way that can secure you, right?
True.
Investment savings hand in hand. As you think about this decision to start a business in 2011, was your journey to investments also linked to a similar period of time, and then those decisions which obviously led to this point of time?
I didn't have that much money when I started, to be really honest.
But the earlier you start, the better it is, irrespective of how small you start. Right?
True. So as far as investing is concerned, I started working in 2006. I started investing in 2007. And
what was the first investment?
The first investment, I think it was an ELSS mutual fund which I did for ATC from SBI.
Got it. Okay.
So that was the first thing that I did. And then I started doing a little bit of individual stocks. And I did that in 2007 and I thought that, okay, fine, man, Malal. I don't think there is anyone better than me, because I was doing it in 2007. And within a year, I realized that
there was no one worse.
There was no one worse. But thankfully, I didn't have enough money then. So I had very little money at that point of time. So even if I was losing. I don't think I had even 3 months or 4 months of salary at that point of time, because I had started working in 2006. So I didn't lose much. But it gave me the idea that this is something that you cannot do right now. So let's just stick to basics. There are mutual funds which are available, which were available in 2008, 2009. And since then, I continued to invest in mutual funds. As and when I started saving more money, I started making more money. I started becoming a little more conscious of, okay, which fund to put the money in, what sort of calls need to be taken, do I really need to... So I believe the first big shift which came in was around 2013.
Okay.
Because at that point of time, business had started making some profits.
Understood.
And that was the time when SEBI also came out with the thing that now you can do direct investments. I think 2013, 2014, whatever that period was. Before that, it used to be, okay, you are telling me something, went to the bank guy is telling me something. There is dad's friend who does this, who is telling me something. And all of them gave good recommendations, I invested in those. But once this direct factor came into the picture, that is when I started taking a lot of my own calls as to which fund am I going to invest in.
That's a very, very interesting thing. I'll come back to it, but I'm very curious to learn more about why that changed it. But please complete your point.
So that is when the finance part and the investment part started. But even then it was, every month I'm taking essentially a decision. Okay, I saved 50,000 rupees this month, or I saved 2 lakh rupees this month. What do I do with this money? I think post 2016, 2017, post demonetization, because these are the sort of markers that I have in my head. That is when I started becoming a little more serious. Okay, I have a decent enough corpus. If I invest it properly, it will not be able to replicate my income, but it's a substantial enough amount so that I need to do this well. I cannot blindly just put money in X or Y without thinking too much about it.
That's interesting, right? So, almost 10 years into your career, 2007 to 2017, I think that's a time frame that we see a lot of people, a lot of our users talking about as well, where that base has been built, but almost that what you invest in that period of time is very different from what you'd like to be or how you'd like to see your investments happen post that. Did you become more adventurous with what you were investing in post 2017?
No. I became a lot more conservative. I became a lot more conservative. I'll not say conservative. I'll say a little less experimentation started. That okay, so I'm not going to go in for, I think Mira Asset started around that time, or maybe a little bit before. Someone told me Quantum was there. So these are these new funds. Before, some new guy is coming in, so there must be. There has to be some reason. If a new guy comes in and he's breaking away, that means he should have a certain amount of talent. Otherwise he's going to survive in the business. Otherwise he's not.
Fair insight. Yeah.
So I used to go and run after those. 2016-17 onwards, SBI, HDFC, SBI, and I think that is when I started learning about index funds. I believe after 2018-19, it has been purely index funds. I do not want that extra 1% or 2% and then lose sleep over it. So let's just go in for index funds. Let's just go in for index fund from SBI or ICICI or HDFC. Yes, Navi might have an index fund which will give me at 6 basis points or 7 basis points, whereas ICICI is charging 13. I do not want to optimize for that. What I would optimize for is I'll put in more money, I'll keep everything in one place, easier to take decisions later on.
I'm assuming the next milestone was COVID, 2021, 2022.
Yeah.
Did that start changing your perspective?
So as I said, COVID is the point of, till now it was always, okay, I have money. No, I have too much in equity. And this is not based on numbers. So I look at my portfolio, okay, I have so much in equity. Let me just put this money in debt. I never did asset allocation. I never thought about how am I going to generate an income or how much money do I even need from these investments and etc. 2020 is when I started really seriously thinking about. So I read a few books, saw a bunch of videos. 2020 is when I think I started thinking about FIRE very seriously. And that's when I started modifying my portfolio in such a fashion that maybe 2 years down the line, maybe 10 years down the line, whenever I pull the plug, I should have my portfolio sorted. So it took a little while.
Ravi, would love for you to explain the concept of FIRE once.
Sure.
Obviously, Mint did a fantastic job. LiveMint did a fantastic job of covering you and a few other gentlemen on the concept of what FIRE means. I've seen a lot of social media posts. It's clearly something that a lot of WhatsApp groups are chatting about. But would your words what FIRE as a concept is?
Absolutely. So FIRE essentially stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. The fundamental idea is that you have enough corpus saved and invested in such a fashion that you can keep drawing money from that. Maybe it generates an income in some fashion, or you withdraw money from it such that you do not need to work anymore. So that is the financial independence aspect of it. The retire early part of it is that you actually quit your job and you don't do anything and you just eat based on that purpose.
Understood.
A lot of people, do the FI part, the financial independence part. Okay, fine. Now I'm financially independent. Maybe I'll continue in this job for a few more years, or maybe I'll move to another job, but I'll not retire. And that is a route a lot of people take. And the other route is that no, you actually pull the plug and then you retire at 40, 50, basically lesser than whatever is the going age.
How did you get introduced to this concept?
I think I'm not very sure, but I think there is a YouTube channel called 2 Sides of F.I.R.E.
Okay.
And during COVID, I didn't have much to watch, so that's where I started watching it. I liked the idea. I always have this idea that if there is some way I can generate income without working per se, that is a good goal to have. And that is something that I have tried, from forever I can remember. So I started blogging in 2002 when I was in college. And the idea was, because someone said that, okay, you blog and then you put Google ads. This is 2002, so might sound stupid now. In 2002, in 2002 for a second year engineering college student, if you tell him that you'll get $10 a month, that's a brilliant idea. So the idea was, okay, you write and then it'll keep on paying you forever.
Sure.
So that sounded like a great idea. Then in 2010, I wrote a book.
Okay.
Again, the idea was, because, you write a book, you'll get royalty forever and maybe you can live off it. The reason for starting the business, which was essentially an online business, was fine. So what we did was we sold access to videos. So my original thinking was, I'll make the videos once and then I'll keep on making the benefits, which I later realized it doesn't work that way. Running a business is a whole different ballgame, which I realized with blogging also, which I realized with writing a book also, that if you write a book, money doesn't just keep flowing in. So always that intention was there that, okay, you do something where you can keep on making money while you sleep. The FIRE thing came in 2020, which crystallized that, okay, so the only way you can do this is money makes money. And now you have a decent enough purpose, you invest it properly and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. And then it was math.
I think a lot of people, almost everyone worries about the FI part, about the financial independence part. I think the RE part is a lot more, to be honest, about self-will to be able to take it, and kudos to you for making that decision. But this concept of passive money and making money while you sleep is obviously very core to us as a fixed income investment platform. Right? It's
true. That's what you do.
That's a core proposition that we actually want to solve for. And as on a lighter note, we try to build a business to solve exactly that problem. But if you don't mind, today as you think of your portfolio, what is it that you have said, hey, I have a sufficient corpus, this is what will make money on money for me? Is it equities and then dividend? Is it fixed income? Is it a hybrid of those two? Is there something totally different that you have? So
dividend income is obviously a route that a lot of people take. But when I did the math, what I realized is to make, if I have 100 rupees, to consistently make 2 rupees or even 3 rupees from dividend income is very, very difficult from that 100 rupees.
Absolutely.
Another very popular route is, okay, fine, I'll buy commercial property, I'll buy residential property, and I'll make the rental income and the rental yield. Again, it's very, very difficult. The thing that I have sort of figured out is essentially I follow a 3-bucket strategy, where the first bucket is the cash bucket, which is the amount of money that I'll probably need to spend in the next 2-3 years.
Okay.
All of this is invested in safe assets. What I mean by those safe assets is the actual cash notes which are lying at my house, to the savings account, to liquid funds, to ultra short-term funds, to bonds, even some MLDs, which is purely greed, which would mature in the next 2-3 years. So that forms my cash bucket. The second bucket is what I call the safety bucket. The safety bucket has long-term bonds, such as gilt bonds are a part of it, and balance funds are a part of it. Now, this safety bucket, hopefully, I'll never need to even touch this part. The goal with the cash bucket is, this is where my money to spend is going to come from. The goal with the safety bucket is, in case the world gets into a 7-year, 8-year recession. We haven't seen it, but it's possible.
Entirely possible.
It's entirely possible. So at that point of time, that is when I'll use this particular bucket. The idea for this bucket is it should match inflation.
Right.
And I believe gilt funds and balance funds will probably be able to match inflation. The third bucket that I have is the wealth creation bucket. That is where my equity investments are there. That is where my real estate investments are there. That is where I'm ashamed to admit my crypto investments and angel investments are also there. So that is the wealth bucket, which is essentially the money that would keep on growing.
Understood.
Every year, couple of times, what I do is I try to check, okay, my cash, because I'm using that cash bucket that keeps on depleting. If I believe that the markets are doing well and they are doing brilliantly right now, I'll sell some equity and refill that cash bucket back to 4 years is what I have kept in it. So 2 to 4 years is what people recommend. I've played it safe. 4-year cash bucket is there. So I'll transfer money in it. If the markets are not, so this is a judgment call I need to take once in 6 months.
Yeah.
If the markets are not doing well, no problem. I'll evaluate after 6 months.
Right.
So I can keep on doing this for 4 years, and if there is a 4-year long recession, well, then the safety bucket comes into the picture. I hope that never comes.
I think it's in the framework that you made. I think allows you for all different types of capital, right?
Yes.
Super safe to growth. But at the same time, I think you built a framework which does not require active and constant management and resetting of it, right? Otherwise, that can become a full.
When I started, I thought that I'll do something active, but then I realized that I'm not made for that.
Yeah.
Direct equity investing. So I have tried to take away as much decision making as to stay away from decision making as much as possible. So that's why I've gotten into. So I look at it once in 6 months.
Yeah.
Yes, I do get to know how the markets are doing, etc. But I will have a rough idea of what my portfolio is right now. I more or less have an idea that, okay, if I have to sell equity, I'll probably sell some active funds which are lying around. But actually pressing the button and whether I'm selling it for 2 lakh rupees or 20 lakh rupees, that decision I'll take once on Holi, once on Diwali, and that's my standard.
Great formula to prescribe. I want to jump topics to maybe talk about alternative investments. You obviously have dabbled in it, and given you've spent time structuring your finance, you've also thought of what is the role it plays for someone who's thinking about finances in your way. Let's park crypto aside. Very different, very different beast, and now in the regulatory framework, it has highly different implications for your portfolio. But as you think about alternative investments, and you've also witnessed quite a bit of transition. I think as an industry, we've seen 2020 to 2023 quite a transition. What's your view on it from the perspective of an individual investor?
So, I think the most important part is you need to be aware of what sort of risks you are taking. The money that I invested in crypto or a few angel investments that I have made.
Sure.
It has always been with the idea that, okay, I'm going to lose this money and I should be okay with it. And I think I invested, 1% of my net worth in it. It was never such a significant amount that, I'm going to lose sleep over it. And when you talk about alternative investments, so I have made investments in NCDs from startups that you would have never heard of because they were paying 16%. There are MLDs that I have bought from platforms that you would be aware of that. I have made investments in Grip as well. The idea always was to try out these things and maybe figure out that obviously my cash bucket needs to be very, very safe. But if that can generate, if some portion of that, so let's say if I have 100 rupees in my cash bucket, maybe 5, 10, 20 would be in cash or in savings, but there will be a certain portion which will be in liquid funds.
True.
There will be a certain portion which will be in bonds. There will be a certain portion which will be in Grip, Invest. So you keep on increasing the risk and you should be okay losing that particular amount. So for an individual, I believe it's really, really important that, when you're putting in the money, do not blindly look at, okay, this is giving me 6%, this is giving me 9%, 9% is better than 6%. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
The 9% is coming in with an additional amount of risk. Are you okay taking that amount of risk? I am. I have investments where there are 20% returns as well. But yes, I'm very well aware that the 20% returns which are there today, I might lose the principal on them, and I'm okay with that because that's not only it is a small part of my cash bucket, which itself is a small part of my entire portfolio. So overall, it is not going to make a difference. But maybe the returns that will keep coming in, they will balance it out.
I think you've captured it beautifully, and there's so much education. One of the things I've said many times is we never teach money management as a part of curriculum, as a part of essential life skill curriculum in schools or colleges, right? So none of us are taught how we should manage our money, though managing money is one of the most critical parts to good life, right? The concept of, hey, I need to diversify, I need to plan, I need to play across everything that is super safe to something that is growth, and I need to be educated to say this is a risk, there's a risk-adjusted return, I think is really critical to building it. In the last few weeks, there has obviously been a lot of social media chatter about one of the portfolio companies that we have leased assets to. You've posted about it.
Yes.
But before we talk about that example, when did you first invest in Grip?
I think 2020, I don't remember, maybe 2021?
Couple of years, 12, 18, 20 months back.
More than that. I think, so I remember, so when did you guys raise your first round?
We raised our first round in October 2020.
I invested in November 2020. So whenever you publicized it, that's how I found out about it, and that's when I invested. So maybe you raised in 2020. I don't know when you publicized it. That might be a different date.
Sure.
But I read about it, and that's when I invested.
And was it it was obviously in a leasing transaction?
Yes.
It was in a leasing transaction, and since then you've done more than a few investments?
I'm sure. I think maybe around 15, 20 or somewhere in that range.
Got it. We'll talk about the one company, which there's been a delay in payments. But other than that, how has been the experience? Any feedback that we can take?
It's pretty good. I've always got the money on time. My only thing is your UI UX needs to improve a little bit, but we have HDFC Bank in India, so UI UX doesn't really matter for financial products. That's pretty well established. But other than that, the experience has been pretty good. It has been pretty smooth. I've always got whatever was promised, and the way the team communicates, especially, so I've been in touch with Kinshuk from the team, and they have been very open, very transparent about any of the upcoming deals, what's happening with the existing deals, etc. So the experience has been definitely pretty good.
Understood. Obviously, we've had a situation where one of the companies our users have these assets to has led to a delay, and things have played out. They're all in the media for facts to know. As an investor, seeing this play out, I know you have a personal exposure to it. Seeing this play out, how did it make you feel about Grip as a platform, and how do you feel we could have done better?
So I have all praises for the platform about what has happened till now.
Sure.
Because you guys always communicated on time that, okay, there might be an issue, then there is an issue, then yes, there is a problem and this is what the reason is. I really like that, because what I would have hated to happen is I would have found out about it.
Sure.
But instead of finding out about it from an article that I read in a newspaper, you guys are telling me well in advance that these issues, these challenges are there. So that is what I expect from the platform, and that is where the platform has delivered. The expectation that now I have is, the entire idea was that, okay, there is some sort of collateral which is there is some sort of assets which are there. You might be able to sell some of them, something might be able to happen, you are able to recover maybe 5% of that money, or you might be able to recover 100% of the money. We do not know. That's the part that I am waiting for, that how much of it are you able to recover and what is the process that you guys follow for it.
Yeah.
Even if you are able to recover 1% or even 0%, that's perfectly okay.
Sure.
But what all measures did you take? Did you take the legal route? How much time, effort, money you guys spent on taking the legal route? What all did you do? So I'm very interested in finding out. See, this was bound to happen with company X or company Y. As I said, if someone is giving you 9% instead of 6% or 18% instead of 9%, there is a risk. How the platform takes care of that. I'll wait for that to happen, but till date, I have been extremely happy with the way this has been handled.
No, truth be told, it is a test for us. I think we have seen a couple of situations play out before this, and we've obviously, each one has its own flavors and dynamics, and we've come out on the right side of it, being able to protect investor IRR till now. This is obviously probably a fairly more complicated situation, but I think what we owe to our users, I think, is complete transparency. We have transparency to say that this is what happened. I think the number two is very high intent, okay, to solve for it, and then all the effort we can put to make it happen. I think these are the three things that we can solve for. Obviously, there are factors beyond some of these things. For example, the founder leaving the country, where there are things we can,
Absolutely. See, there is this quote from Ravish that not all battles are fought for victory. Sometimes it's important that there was someone who was standing on the battlefield for you. That's what I expect from Grip or from any other platform who has taken money. You'll lose. That's okay. But did you fight for it or not? That is what I am more interested in knowing, that did you fight? How did you fight? What all did you do?
No, thank you for saying that, and I think that's one of the things for us to learn from this experience is what we can do better from a communication point of view, because we are not communicating to just one person, but we're communicating to many investors who have invested small amounts, and we want to make sure that we do right by them. Maybe talking about the future a bit from your perspective, what does the future hold from an investment perspective, be from a personal, professional perspective? Would love to hear. And how do this, in your case, they're so intertwined, right? They're more intertwined than anyone else we've probably interviewed on this podcast, because for a lot of people, they're still in the phase of, hey, I'm earning money, there'll be more next month. But for you, it's very different.
True. So to be really honest, it's very difficult for me. Let's go 50. When I started working, I never thought that I'll start my own business. When I started my own business, I never thought that it would make so much amount of money that I'll have a 15-member team.
Sure.
I never thought that I'll be able to sell that business. I never thought that I'll be able to retire. So every 5-7 years, and I believe that happens with nearly everyone, your career, you can maybe think 5 years, where would you be in 5 years, where would you be in 7 years? But it's very difficult for you to project where you will be in 10 years or 15 years because things change drastically. You might change locations, you might have kids, you might get into an accident and something happens. So I do not really know from a very long period that what I'm going to do, but what I'm more or less clear about is, so my kid is 2.5. Till the kid starts going to maybe, UKG or class 1, till his school bit is settled, till then I'm not going to get into a full-time employment.
Got it.
That much part is clear. The second thing is, so that is maybe 3 years, 4 years, a little bit down the line. The part that I'm hopeful about is there are some angel investments that I have made. Right now, it would be foolish of me to think that, okay, this is worth this much, this is worth this much based upon last round. Because we know that it can go to, this has actually happened. There is an investment that I made in January 2022 for around 5 lakh rupees, which by the time October, November 2022, that was 50 lakh rupees on paper. And by March 2023, the company had shut down.
Would you be comfortable sharing?
No.
Okay.
But this has happened.
It has happened.
So,
and it will happen again.
It will happen again.
Yes.
It will happen again. But so there are a few angel investments which are on paper, they are doing well right now. Probably their stories will play out in the next 3 years, 4 years. There are a couple of companies that I worked at. So I worked at Unacademy, which is a unicorn. I worked at Mindtickle, for Mindtickle I was the first employee.
Okay.
Unacademy acquired my company.
Sure.
So in both of these places, I have decentish ESOPs. But should I account for them or should I consider them as zero? I believe that all these stories will play out in the next 3 years, 4 years. So I know that for the next 3-4 years, I'm not really looking at any active income, and let's see what happens 3 years down the line. We'll take a call then.
Ravi, we talked about investments that have worked well. We've talked about investments in your portfolio. You mentioned earlier that one of the things you should keep aside is crypto investments, right? Is that the one thing that you feel was not the right bet in your portfolio?
In hindsight, it wasn't a good bet, but until and unless you make these bets, you will not know which one is a good bet and which one is a bad bet.
I agree. Yeah.
So, say some of my angel investment bets have worked. A lot of my career is built on taking these risks, starting a business, selling a business, working, being the first employee of a company. So unless you take these risks, you are not going to make outsized returns.
Yeah.
So I'll not really call it a bad investment. Yes, I lost some money, but I've lost money in plenty of other ways as well. As I was saying, in 2007, I think people still make investments based in companies based on the land banks that they have. That used to be a rage in 2007.
Land banks, gold banks, all things which you cannot measure or do anything about.
Yes. So made some investments. So now, do I call them mistakes? Individual bets? No. But the idea, I had that belief at that point of time that yes, I am a great investor. I will be able to pick stocks which would become multi-baggers. That is a mistake. Overestimating my ability of picking stocks. That I believe was a big mistake. Thankfully, I didn't have much money then because I just started my career, so got it out pretty early. It would have been a huge problem if I made that mistake in 2023.
I think it's fun. We're fundamentally emotional beings, and investment should fundamentally be done as a non-emotional business. I think people who can solve that dichotomy are probably going to make likely to make more better decisions.
So that's what I'm saying. My entire philosophy of investment has become remove decision making. I'm not going to decide, forget which stock is better or not. I'm not even going to decide which fund is better or not. I'll go in with an index fund.
Understood.
So,
there's something that you said earlier as well, which was about in 2013, direct investments became possible.
Correct.
Right? And the reason I found it very relevant is in the fixed income space and the alternative space, it is now that direct investments have become possible. Till recently, that was not. Forget the ticket size for a minute, but the direct investment ability, what happened in stock markets in the early 2010s, is now become possible. Why did that change for you? What did that change for you as an investor? Where you said, okay, now I can. Was it about access? Was it about control? What was it?
The idea that I did not even know that I was paying such huge amounts in commission. So when these direct investments came into the picture, I did not have a big portfolio at that point of time, to be really honest. But the idea was I knew that I'm going to make a lot of money in the coming years. So instead of continuing with the old way, if maybe I can save at that point. See, right now the difference between a regular and a direct is down to 50 basis points. Go back to 2013, the top of the funds, it used to be 110, in some cases even 150 basis points used to be the delta between them. So that's the reason that I decided. And a good fund, a good large cap fund from, let's say, SBI versus a bad large cap fund from, let's say, HDFC. What is the difference between them on a 10-year basis? It's going to be 1.5%.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be more than that. So even if I make a mistake and I do not pick the right fund, the direct versus
indirect,
the direct versus regular route would cover for that. Also, this sort of laid the responsibility on me taking the decision versus, what did Nikhil say? Nikhil said put in HDFC top 100, so I put money in HDFC top 100. Now I need to decide, which made me more aware, pushed me to learn more about these products, and that helped because it's because of all of that knowledge is probably I'm able to take decisions, I'll not say great decisions, but slightly better decisions in 2023 because I started learning from 2013.
Understood. We'll just record one last question.
Sure.
One of the theme or tag lines for GRIP is go beyond, right? Our idea is to allow investors to go beyond. What, if you can capture, was your go beyond moment? Was it the discovery of the concept of FIRE and how it plays in your life? Or is there something else that you would say was a really go beyond moment in your life?
I would say it was making profits from my business. I never realized that an edtech business or an online business can actually make enough money to replace your salary. Forget making so much money that it is equal to twice your salary or thrice your salary. I did not. So when I started the business, my goal was somehow, if from the online business I can make enough versus what I would make in my salary, then that was my goal. That I'll not have to work a regular job if I can make. It's very obvious to anyone in 2023 that you can make enough money online like your job. In 2012, not at all. It wasn't something that people did. So that was my thing. That when I realized that, this is possible, and then I realized that, okay, I can now invest this money and maybe grow this business. So I think that worked a lot better.
Fantastic. Okay. I think this, like I mentioned to you, this is my first Inquisitive Investor. My co-founder Ashish has been doing it. But I think just so many powerful concepts, and sometimes it's not possible to grasp all of them in a recording. But if I was to just summarize that, the way I took it away, I think it's incredible to be able to manage money in a way to create financial independence. A lot of people don't do it. And a lot of forget the choice to retire or the decision to retire, but the choice to retire, I think, is a very powerful concept. I worry about, as India's population ages, how many people will get to a position where salary income started to dip, or you lost your job, or you don't have any job, but we don't have the social infrastructure to support. But I think the ability to manage money in a way to create that is incredible. I think the way in which you've structured diversity, right? I think the core concepts of diversity, which everyone talks about, I think could not have been better explained than what you did today. And not just in terms of looking at different time horizons, but even the products that go into it. And then the ability to create that into a passive income stream with very little active management, I think are fantastic. I think the one I would add from an alternative investments perspective, and we say this all the time, alternative investments, including the products on GRIP, are not for everyone. I think you need to have at least 10 years of experience in investments. You need to build a safety nest, do your FD, do your mutual fund, set up your SIPs, and then when you're looking for a higher growth product, come to platforms like GRIP. Obviously make sure your platform is regulated, has all the bells and whistles, and then start allocating a percentage of your portfolio into this thing. Great to hear you echo the same sentiment and to see that play out in your life. But thank you. Incredibly educative session. and really appreciate your time.
Happy to
Thank
be
you so
here.
much, Ravi. Thank you all for watching. This has been an incredibly informative session. All thanks to Ravi for his time. This is all we have for today. Catch us on the next episode of Inquisitive Investor. Get a grip on your money and go beyond.
Investments in debt securities are subject to risks. Read all the offer-related documents carefully.